spent years believing I was behind because someone else started ahead. Hi, I am Eli. I'm 26, and most of what I know about this building, I know in the dark. By 9 in the evening, the office I clean on Victoria Island has already forgotten the people who filled it all day. The phones have stopped ringing. The voices that talked over each other in meetings have gone home. What's left is just me, my cart, and the low rattle it makes crossing the marble, a sound I've come to know better than most people's voices. I move through it slowly, not because I'm tired, but because there isn't much reason to rush. Bin by bin, desk by desk. Most nights I pass the same small plaques on the same office doors, names I've never spoken to. And somewhere in there, without really noticing when it started, I began wondering what it would feel like to have one with my own name on it. I dropped out of school at 17. Money, mostly, and a few other reasons I don't talk about much. I notice things, though. I always have. The way certain men say thank you without looking up, and the way others don't say it at all. I read a room faster than most people I know. None of that has gotten me anywhere yet, and somewhere along the way, without sitting down and deciding to, I built a reason for why. It isn't a foolish reason. Some people really do start ahead by virtue of their family, schools, exposure, and so on. I believed that completely, because sometimes it's the only reason I have and often tends to be true. What I hadn't seen yet was everything I had quietly built on top of this belief. On this faithful Tuesday, the message found me before my shift even started, while I was still getting ready at home. A friend from back home, someone I grew up 2 streets from, had just landed a job at a real company. Good title, good money, the kind of news that moves fast through people who remember exactly where you both started. For maybe 4 seconds, I felt something close to proud of him. Then, underneath that, something heavier moved in and settled, the way it always does. His uncle works in that industry, I thought. Always has. And he finished school. I didn't even get that far. By the time I was on the bus, I had built the whole case without meaning to. The uncle. The school he finished that I never did. The internship that came from a phone call instead of an application. Each piece slotted into place so neatly that by the time I pushed my cart down the first hallway that night, his success made complete sense to me. So, conveniently, did my own lack of one. I am good at this. I have always been good at explaining other people's wins. I had simply never once turned that same attention toward my own hands. And that night, carrying his name in my head like a small stone in my shoe, I walked straight into the one conversation that would finally make me try. The top floor belongs to Mr. Samuel, though every called him Sam. He owns the company headquartered in this building, and for most of the year I've worked here, he was simply a man who left late and said goodnight on his way to the lift. That changed slowly, the way these things do. A comment about the rain one night. A laugh we shared once over a World Cup football score neither of us believed. A few minutes here and there, 2 or 3 nights a week, when the only 2 people left in the building happened to be standing in the same room. None of it meant much on its own, but it had added up into something small and real, the kind of familiarity you don't notice building until it's already there. I didn't know, walking onto his floor that night with his bin still waiting to be emptied, that it was about to be tested. I came in slower than usual, my mind still somewhere on the bus, still circling that one sentence. He finished school. I didn't even get that far. Sam looked up from his laptop before I'd even reached his bin. You good? I almost said I was fine. That's what I always say. But something smaller and more honest came out instead. Just tired of watching everyone else get the breaks I never got. The second it left my mouth, I wanted it back. This is the man who decides if I still have a job next month, and I had just handed him a complaint about people who get handed things. I genuinely did not know what his face was about to do. It didn't do what I expected. He didn't look annoyed, and he didn't look amused either. He just went quiet for a second, the way someone does when a sentence lands somewhere familiar. How old do you think I was? He asked, when my own break finally came. I shrugged. Young, I guessed. Knew someone, probably. He shook his head slowly. Then he told me the age, And for the next 10 minutes, the floor I clean every single night stopped feeling like the only place either of us would ever stand. 41, he said. That's how old he was before anything that looked like this career actually began. 12 years before that, he told me, of various things, a logistics job he hated, a small import business that barely survived 2 years before it didn't, a long stretch selling insurance door to door, which he said taught him more about rejection than anything else in his life. None of it added up to a straight line. None of it looked from the outside like it was going anywhere. Nobody opened a door for me, he said. For most of those 12 years, he was completely certain that everyone moving faster than him had been handed something he hadn't. He wasn't saying this gently to make me feel better. He said it plainly, almost like he was a little surprised to hear himself say the number out loud after this long, and that's exactly what made it land. Once that settled between us, he asked me something I haven't stopped thinking about since. Picture 2 pilots, he said. One grows up around aviation. His father runs a charter company, and by 10 years old, he's already logging hours in the cockpit under supervision. The other doesn't sit behind the controls of a plane until he's 30. For 20 years, Sam said, that gap is enormous, real, unfair, if you want to call it that. But the day the second pilot finally takes his first flight, something happens to that gap that almost nobody notices in the moment. It stops growing. From that day on, both of them are simply logging hours at exactly the same rate, 1 hour for every hour flown. The 20-year head start is still true. It just no longer has anything left to do with where they go from there. He looked at me directly. Your friend's uncle, he said, mattered for the 5 minutes it took to make a phone call. The school he finished, that one mattered more, I'll be honest with you. But it only matters as a head start. It was never a wall. It was a number of years he had that you didn't, and numbers of years are the one thing that can still be earned back, just on a different clock than his. I didn't have an answer for that. Not yet. He wasn't finished, and somehow I already sensed the next part would be the one that stayed with me. You'll be 30 in 4 years, he said. That part isn't up for discussion. It's coming whether you spend that time building something or spend it explaining why you couldn't. 4 years is also enough time, he said, to finish what you started. Evening classes, part-time around your shifts if that's what it takes. Plenty of people do it exactly that way, slower, alongside everything else they're already carrying. The only thing actually undecided, he said, is which 30-year-old you're going to be. One still without a degree, or one who finally has it, 4 years later than people who never had to stop, but has it all the same. His voice didn't get harder when he said it. If anything, it softened, like he was handing me something he genuinely wished someone had given him during those 12 years, back when he needed it most. I went home that night and didn't sleep much, not because I was upset, because for the first time in longer than I could remember, the question sitting in my chest had actually changed shape. It wasn't, why did he get that, and I didn't anymore. It was which 30-year-old I actually wanted to be. That question stayed with me long after the shift ended, and it's still here now, which is the only reason I'm telling you this at all. Here is what I didn't see until that night. Most of the advantages I resented in other people had already expired long before I even heard about them. They were only ever the reason someone hadn't started yet. The moment they start, on whatever clock they're on, the advantage has nothing left to explain, and time was never going to wait for my explanation to finish anyway. 4 years was always coming, whether I used them or argued with them. Maybe your version of this isn't a degree. Maybe it's the business you keep saying you'll register once things settle. The second qualification you tell yourself is for later. The thing you stopped halfway through because somebody else seemed to be doing it easier, with a head start you didn't have. Whatever it is, you probably already have someone in mind who needs to hear this. Maybe it's even you. Send them this. Not as a way of telling them to stop complaining. It's the same thing Sam gave me. A way of seeing the clock that's already running for both of you. And if this is the first story of ours you've watched, stay close. There's another one coming. And it might be the one that actually gives you the clarity you need. Please like, comment, and subscribe.